Hey, what's up, guys? You are watching AP Lyrics. You can just call me Ace. Anyway, I just want to show you guys how to sample. It's a video made which is directly towards my friends who's always asking me how in the world do you sample with FL Studio and Reason at the same time? Well, just because I said it, you do need FL Studio and Reason, and it's like an easier way to sample and make beats on your own. Anyway, yeah, because I feel as if samples are a little too expensive for what they really use them for, and it's not really that hard. Like I said, you can even do this with like FL Studio Demo, and you can use this with Reason Demo. Whenever I make a beat, I usually don't save it, so it really doesn't matter. But I do have both full versions. Anyway, the first thing that you would need to do to sample is you need to pick a song that you're really into, like a really good song that you really think that you'll be able to make progress with. So what you do is that this isn't how FL Studio originally works. It usually starts off with nothing. So what you like to do is that you would like to click this button here. This brings up the Edison machine, and what you do is that you click load sample and all that stuff, and you get the sample, and it usually takes MP3s and WAV files. If you want to drag a song from iTunes, you would need an M4A converter, which you can just use on the internet, just do all of that stuff, because most of the time when you buy songs off of iTunes, it's not originally MP3, so you're going to have to convert it. In order to implement Reason, you would have to use Rewire. It's in channel, rewired. All you have to do is just follow the right functions, show panel, and this is a part of FL Studio now. The reason why I use Rewire is because I really don't trust FL Studio's equipment. I only like its sample features. So like I use drums from Reason and all that stuff, and like some type of, if it needs a synthesizer, usually most of the time it really doesn't need a synthesizer. Anyway, it doesn't need that most of the time, so I really don't mess with it. Okay, so let's start off. I'm sorry for the mic right now. I'm kind of lazy. So let's get started. So the song that I picked is a pretty difficult sample, in my opinion, because it really doesn't have like its own beat. So I'm gonna have to create its own beat for you guys. I may need a little concentration, but I'll show you guys how to go through it. Because this is live, I have no type of script or anything like that. I'm gonna have to figure out how to sample this on my own. Alright, so let's listen to it first. Just a little side note before you start working with this stuff. Make sure that when you do it, you don't have to listen to the whole song. You can skip through parts, and that's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you guys. Like, you hear the way that it's going through, like it's so soulful. You need to listen to music like that, like, I don't know, 60s, 50s. You can even listen to 80s and pop music and all that stuff. It doesn't matter what type of song you is, as long as it has a steady beat and it has something that like you can like really think of. That's how you want it. Something that has really, really good heart into it. You have to understand that. So this song is pretty straightforward, so I'm probably going to sample this part right here. So let's zoom in a little bit, and you guys might understand that when you use Edison, you might run into this issue right here. Like, watch this. You see how the song's moving? You don't really have any control over your actual song. You really don't want that, because sometimes you want to cut parts of the music, but you at the same time want the music to keep on playing. So what you do is that you click this button right here, so that way it doesn't like the Edison doesn't follow the song. It follows your discretion. Just to show you again what will happen if I don't click the button, I'll show you it right now and watch the camera. When she smiles, See how you can't turn it? Alright, so now let's get to the actual sampling part. Back, like I said, I was probably going to go around here. Now you also have to keep a steady beat with this. You have to figure out the tempo. Like, no matter how offbeat the sound really sounds, you can make a tempo for it. And the tempo that you really think that the tempo is, you need to put it on there, because FL Studio definitely needs a sense of tempo and a sense of rhythm in order for you to add your beats into it. Like, you just can't just copy and paste the beat on and then try to guess the thing into the drum words. That takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of effort for a low quality song, and you need to have the best quality. Also, a thing that I also forgot is that when you're sampling, FL Studio tends to have a little less quality, and it sometimes like takes away quality from the song. It's mostly due to this thing right here. What you do is that you go into you click this and you go to the master, and you make sure you click onto the master, not the inserts, but these right here. And what you do is that you take the limiter, you click onto it, go to replace, and you go to none. So that way you remove the limiter from FL Studio, from the master. So that way the music gets a better sound and you can understand how to edit it better. Because the limiter kind of, well, it's supposed to make it sound better, but at the same time it limits the song. That's what makes me feel as if it's kind of bad. So what you would like to do in order to replace the limiter is that you can add a compressor to it, but that's a little later on. So let's start off with this. Right now we're trying to figure out what exact tempo should this have. So hold on. Now let's set this to repeat. Yeah, like I said, we're going to set this to repeat, so that way we can get a good tempo and make sure that our sample is in the right form. Alright, there we go. Let's try and get the tempo. What you do is that you right click the original tempo and you go to tap, and let's try that out. Oh crap, hold on. We gotta play the song first. Alright, let's see. It might be a little bit off because this song has no tempo, but we need some type of thing. I might need to lengthen the piece out just a little bit, so that way I can, yeah, I'm probably going to lengthen the piece out just a little bit, just so that way I can get some type of time. Alright, so like I said, right now I'm working with a non-tempo piece, which is usually harder than the normal. So let's start out. You switch it. Don't go to pat. You switch the song, because when you press this on the limiter, it takes it straight to the master and not the pat file. And it's usually not the best to put it on the pattern list anyway. So let's start off with this. Now what I just did is that I went to detect tempo. Most of the time it's not right. It's basically what it does is that it puts it in the 4, so that way it's much cleaner way in order to add the drums. Now this is probably going to be an offbeat type tempo just because it doesn't have a tempo. So once you go to detect tempo, usually what you do is that you get a little discretion of like you click and figure out to see if you want your tempo to be a certain way, and then you go to detect tempo to like make sure that that's the exact tempo. Sometimes when you click on the tempo and it goes to like 90, and when detect tempo says for it to go to like 74, you understand that detect tempo is wrong. So then when you go to detect tempo, you go to you click on project, because that usually gives you the right tempo. So if I change this to 95 right here, and then I went to detect tempo and I wanted this to be at 95, then you could click this button right here and it'll take you to 95 instead of the preferred tempo by FL Studio. Now, in order to for sampling purposes, to make it better, change the sound of it, you got to go to fit tempo. Okay. So what fit tempo does is that it puts the tempo at its exact position. It says that this is now the exact tempo. And I don't know if fit tempo went. Yeah, it went. Anyway, this puts it at the exact same tempo that you need it at. So like when you play it, whenever you change this tempo, you can hear it change. And when you go to restretch all channels, it puts it back to the same key. So basically, it's easier to change key when you use fit tempo. Now before you sample and you start changing all this different types of stuff, make sure that you click the normalize button. Because if you click it later on, it's going to change it back to its original key. And it makes it sound a lot more fuller. Anyway, let's start off with the piece again. Like you heard that, the way that the piece changed a lot because of the key, that's because I had brought up the tempo right here, and try to make sure that you can have it in increments of 5. Like make sure that all your beats are divisible by 5. Sometimes it's not actually it's actually better to change it to like a like to make it to a different type of tempo, but in this case it's actually easier for you to use. But in many other cases, in order to get that really good sound, like if you have like a generic piece and you want to make it sound out of the box, my favorite tempo is usually like 83 or 88, just my discretion. It could be any tempo for you guys, it's your choice. Now guys, you may not like repetition that much, but that's the whole point of sampling. You gotta feel what you really think matters to you. Like you gotta understand, like you gotta think to yourself, and you're like, what sounds good, and you gotta keep listening over and over again. It's almost like reading a book. Like you gotta read it. When you read it, you don't always read it once. You don't read it once and then you just put it away. You gotta read it multiple times to understand it. And that's the same way with music. And since it's a small piece, you have to listen to it several times, not just multiple times. You have to understand it. Like I have a discretion. I mean, not discretion. I have like a thought of how this song goes already just by listening to it several times. And the beat has absolutely no tempo, and I'm actually working with this. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna cut this piece out right here. I'm just gonna click on this right now. What you do with this, it kind of mutes the piece. And now I'm going to copy the piece that I just cut with the cut tool that I had used right here to cut the song, and I'm going to copy the pieces that I want to copy onto it. So so you can just watch me right now, and we'll be able to do this one. Like you saw that, I just copied it. When you click on it, you copy. Now I'm trying to make this beat extremely simple. Something that you can like freestyle off of and just, you know, add types of flow to it and all that different types of stuff, whatever you want. You can make this into like some type of mix, Daft Punk type stuff, or you can like add whatever you want to it. No matter, this applies to any type of music and any type of opinion that you really think that matters. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to use a new tool, and it's called the select tool. Anyway, it may be a different type of name, but I like to call it the select tool. So what it does is that it selects it, and what I'm going to do is that in order to save time, I'm going to press Control C on Windows. I don't know how to do it on Mac, I'm sorry. Or you could just copy and paste. Like you could just, can you? Oh no, sorry. Anyway, whoops. So you select it, you press Control C on Windows. If you're on Mac, you're probably using Logic and Reason. There's no reason to use FL Studio if you have a Mac. I don't even think that it's on Mac if you have FL Studio. So it's Control C, and then you go to the next part of the master. Is this called a mixer? Hold on. Yeah, no. This is called the playlist. There we go. So on the other side of the playlist, and you press Control. Whoops. You press Control V to paste it. So I paste the complete different one, and the second part is going to be the same as the last one, but the only difference is that I'm going to take my my cut piece right here, and I'm going to copy it to the end. So now then it changes once in a while, like 1 or 2 times, and that's going to be it for the entire sample. And now you just add drums, and you just add whatever thing that you want. Let me start it from the beginning. Well, you see that we just made a wonderful sample. I'm gonna change the key to see what happens. Sometimes you need experimentation. Experimentation is the most important part here. Now what I'm going to do is that, so that way I can get a better sample, what you can do is that you can set the original key to a separate to a certain tempo by clicking set to new channel. So once you do that, it's going to change the channel, and what you do when you click yes, it takes it back to its original channel, but it's actually faster. You see? So then when you click it up, and So when you move up the tempo and you click no, you'll have a sample that's closer to the melody in key than what you originally had. See? Anyway, what's good about that is that you can also use it backwards. So what you can do is that you can take the entire piece and you can increase the tempo up as high as you want. I don't really advise this, but because it gives you like a drag sound, but at the same time you're able to do it backwards too. Like the original sound is the original key is at 112. And then what you can do is that you can bring it down and click no on restretch all channels, and you'll have a lower sound. See that? What you can do is like you can play around with it. But I'm gonna have a normal, generalized, simple piece. So I'm just gonna set this up to 50, and I'm gonna restretch the channel. And then I'm going to increase the tempo all the way up to about 81. Like I said, it's best to put it in increments of 5, so that way, like, let's say you want to rap over it, it's probably best to put it at an easy set tempo, so that way FL Studio is able to pick it up easier. Otherwise, like if it's at like 81 or something, it may be a little offset, but you can fix that because it's not really that hard. But it just makes things more organized. So let's continue with the sample, and after this we're going to add some drums. We heard this like a billion times. We're getting tired of it. So we're going to add some stuff. So now, right now we're on Reason, and now this Reason is not the actual Reason that people are used to. It's like a slave function. So what you do is that it holds music, and you can take all the instruments from Reason and you can put them in the FL Studio. So you don't really work with Reason in Reason anymore. You can't click play on Reason. You can't record on, well, you can record on Reason. You can add keys to it, but it will be a part of FL Studio. Like, you see how you can't press play because it doesn't work like that. So then I added the Kong. You can use the redrum if you want, but I actually like the Kong better because you're able to click on the like that. So let's increase the value of the Kong. I'll show you how to change the drums a little bit later. I usually don't change it by kits. I usually change it individually. So let's start out with a generic one. I already set the MIDI output to the Kong. So when I click on the keyboard, it sets it. Like if you get a Reason Rewire tutorial, like if you just look up FL Studio Rewire Reason, it'll show you all of this stuff, and it'll show you how to do it if I'm not very clear with my methods. Anyway, so this is where patterns come in, and it's actually really good. So what you do is that you change the playlist source from the sample to pattern 1. The pattern 1 is the generic name. You can change it to anything you want just by going to rename. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change this in increments of 4. And now I'm just going to start out with a steady kick. And you should play with the song now. And now I'm about to play. Now generally when you make a drum beat, it's best to have like that clap, clap. You can change it to whatever you want, but that's usually like the generic standard for most songs when you sample. So I'm just gonna start out with that. Like I start out with my piece being very, very generic, and then I make it more complex as time goes by because you get a little used to how things work. So let's start out with this. please excuse the static, because that usually what happens because my computer is a slow processor. But as soon as it's usually due to rewire and basically due to all the functions running at the same time. So what I like to do is change it up a little bit by changing processors and but I don't have enough time for that now. Anyway, please excuse it. Alright, so once we did that, it shouldn't be a problem anymore. I set up the drum beat. Now, if you want, you can add a hi-hat. Hi-hats for Kong, well, the basis for Kong is usually C5. The snares are usually E5, and the hi-hats are usually G#5. So if you want to add some type of snare, hi-hat or something like that, you can always do that like this. But usually the hi-hat is usually the most annoying part of the piece. So what I like to do is that I like to go to the hi-hat and I like to lower the volume for it, so that way you can barely hear it, but at the same time it leaves out that empty space. You don't ever want to have empty space in a song. Sometimes it's really good when you know exactly what you're doing, but if you're trying to make a generic song or a generic sample of your choice, it's usually not it's not really used. But back onto the other part. Alright, let's get rid of the static. Usually when I get the static, it kind of it's because I don't use enough processors, or I use too many processors. We know that I haven't used any processors yet, so now we're going to add effects to it. Now, by adding effects, what you do is that you change it to a slot. So slot 5 is for Reason. Whenever you would notice this. Like, you can see the snares going up into the volume with this. And we'll set the effects for the sample to 3. So here we go. We'll start out with the drums. What I like to do is that in order to add more volume with the I like to add more bass, and I add more mid feel with the piece. So in order to do that, I usually add a sound goodizer, because it adds a lot more volume and you're able to hear the drums just a little bit more full. Like, you can hear it. So then what I like to do also is I like to add a little reverb, so that way you can hear in a more realistic effect. So I like to turn the reverb just a little bit down. The color is usually at half, but sometimes I want it a little bit more, sometimes I want it a little bit less. In this case, I would like it a little bit less. High cut, you really don't need to hear the high part of the drums at this point. So cutting it like that is pretty good. Sometimes adding more bass to the song is usually recommended, but not really. Now it's hard to hear it just because of the process is running low, since I'm using fraps in order to make this song. But at the same time, you still get what I'm saying. Now, for the sample, I like to use Fruity fruity parametric EQ. You can use a normal EQ if you want, but I like manually using it. So what this thing does is that it changes specific parts of the song, and it increases the volume of it, or it makes it a little bit more pronounced. So let's start off by playing the song, and I'll change it. I usually like to change bass, mid, and high parts. So okay, this is the part of the time where the parts are really weird. So what I like to do is I like to turn this down, and I would turn this down. So now the song's going to be a little bit it's less loud, but at the same time it changes the beats a little bit, because I usually like to hear more drums, and I like to hear a sample, just because of the bass and the snare. So let's try it out. Now we're almost done. So now I would like to do is usually when I'm about to finish a piece, I will add in a fruity multiband compressor just to see if it would sound better. Sometimes it won't sound better, sometimes it will sound better, but you never know. So unless you try it. So let's try it right here. Now, right now, it actually does sound better by adding it into it. And the reason why I'm not really playing the song that much is because it's being distorted by so many processes working on my computer. So let's close everything out, and we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Export. Now, you're able to use the export function in the demo. So it shouldn't be a problem. If you want to use this for the demo, if you can't get FL Studio or Reason. But I don't understand what will work with Reason. At the same time, you really don't need Reason in order to make good drum beats and all that stuff. You can use other programs. You can make the sample in FL Studio, and then you can open up the sample with another program, and you can add beats and you can add drums to it. You can use the drums from FL Studio if you want to, but it's just my opinion, makes it sound better. So now let's turn it into an MP3 file. Let's save it to the desktop, and let's call it beat 1, and let's save it. I almost forgot, sorry. It's only 12 seconds. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select this, and I'm going to copy and paste the entire song multiple times until it's like 3-4 minutes. So that way you actually have an idea of how it starts to sound once you use it. I also like to add intros. Usually my intro consists of like maybe 4 or 5 meters of no drums, and then I play the drums. So let's figure out what it's going to sound like when you do that. But before I do that, I'm going to get rid of the drums, and now let's export it. Let's turn it to MP3 file. Wave is usually the more recommended, but it's really large, and in order to in order to make it faster, you usually turn it to MP3 because it's a smaller size, and it's harder to email things if you have large files. Like there's no reason why a song should be like 133 megabytes. The biggest song that you should ever see is 3 megabytes, or 3 to 6 megabytes, depending on how long the song is. Anyway, we're going to wait for this to load. Alright guys, this is the finished product of the beat that we made, and it's kind of simple, but at the same time, it's usually a really good way to work with it. As you can hear, it's a pretty nice beat. You can rap over it, freestyle. It sounds like one of those type freestyle beats that you would like listen to and work so hard on. And the worst part is that people actually charge too much money for this stuff, and this is why you can do it at home. Like, there is no reason why a beat like this should cost more than like, I don't know, $50. It's ridiculous. People charging $300 for beats that are simple as this. It's absolutely retarded. And anyway, with this type of sample, I hope you liked my video, guys. This is one of my first videos. There were a lot of issues with it, but I still think that we did a good job. And I hope that you like my videos. Hope that you share it to your friends, so that way you can get a better understanding of sampling and how it works. And see you guys later.